Half a day, Guam. I'm Adriana Cotero, and today I am here joined with Superintendent for the Guam Department of Education, Jon Fernandez. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Adriana.
Hi, good afternoon. So you guys just kicked off and launched the Grab and Go Meals program, and I saw some video. It looked like there were some long lines. What other information can you give us now that it's wrapped up? It was from 11 to 1, so it just ended.
Well, first of all, I'm just very thankful for our staff, our school staff, our school administrators, Sodexo, AmeriCorps. We had a couple of volunteers there, and then the mayors and the mayor staff who were able to join us. From all accounts, the operation went smoothly, especially for the first day. You may have seen some lines, and it just depends on which school you're at, because there are 11 schools. But we know that as we were preparing and making sure everything was set up for day one, we know that there were lines of, there were cars already forming in lines before we even started. The biggest question we had was, we know that we could guess that need for school meals was an important need, but we weren't sure about the numbers. So we were glad to see the lines and the families step up so that we can get a good count on how many meals we were going to need on a daily basis to ensure that our students' needs are met.
And, I was in constant communication with you last week as you were trying to implement this. So tell us a little bit about the process that it took in order to get to where we are today with the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Well, as you can guess, as this pandemic situation has unfolded across the world, as it hit the mainland, and for the territories and the states, U.S. Department of Agriculture, as well as U.S. DOE, I'm sure so many other federal agencies started to get information and questions and concerns relative to how we address the situation, especially where federal programs are involved and where federal money is involved. We knew that just immediately, without getting into the school closures, already we had a lot of travel, planned travel conferences, meetings that had to be canceled or rescheduled. We know that once school closures started to happen, there were school meals that were not going to be served, but had been approved to be supported by USDA. So a lot of the early questions came state by state and territory by territory to the feds about relaxing, the requirements around how school meals were served. Some questions about the nutritional requirements in areas where supply might be an issue, supply of food and other materials. So eventually last week, as each state was going through its process and each territory, there was also federal legislation being moved, which granted the secretaries of education and agriculture some broad flexibility to provide basically policy that would cover all the states and territories if needed. So it was interesting to see it unfold because it really required a lot of time and effort and a lot of conversations. And we know it's hard for the government, especially the federal government, to move so quickly. But that's kind of where we were last week. We were going through our own office in California, but at the same time, national legislation was also moving, which was also meant to address some of these issues as well. So it all came to a head on Friday. The legislation passed, it was signed by the president. Our waiver was approved and allowed us an opportunity to get started today on Monday. So we're really, we're very patient, of course. We always want it done as soon as possible, but we understand the process and all of the approvals needed to make sure that at the end of the day, we can provide this support, but also ensure that we can get the federal funding support to make sure that we don't end up at the end of the day with a big budgetary problem. So we're glad we're here.
And essentially the waiver that had to be approved was in order to allow it to be a pickup distribution method, correct? Be outside of the
right
school site.
To be able to have students pick up their meals at the school sites or pick up the meals and then take them home to consume. So usually we're eating in congregate settings where students are eating on site. They're served the meals and they consume the meals on site, and that's really what we're approved to do. But the waiver allows us to more flexibility to work with the mayors, set up sites that are regional sites, allow them to take the meals off campus, and also to set up sites in the villages. Like today, we set up sites at the mayor's offices for any meals that were not able to be served on campus. Maybe families who need transportation can better access those meals in the village at the mayor's offices.
And how did that process go, the pickup, the drive-through method with grab and go?
Well, again, we wanted to pay very close attention to the executive order and what was allowed and what was not allowed, what safety precautions were provided. So you can see from our Sodexo staff and our school staff having gloves, hairnets, hats, masks to be able to operate. I'm trying as much as possible in a drive-through situation to observe the 6-foot distance from each other and minimize contact. Our effort was to move the lines along pretty quickly. You might see a friend in line, but please don't take too much time to have much conversation. We want to get people in and out. So, we're still going to do an after-action report, after-action meeting later on this afternoon to kind of get a handle on where we can improve the process, what schools saw a lot of traffic, what schools needed more, we could generate more traffic towards. We found out was that in the operation, there were some schools running low on meals, some schools that had meals to share, and we were able to get Sodexo to help distribute the meals from site to site to facilitate that. But if I could, just on day one, just on preliminary information, the number of meals served on site was about 5,800 meals at all of our schools. And on day one, we expect that the turnout is not going to be as high as it will be later on as word continues to get out into the community that the meals are available. And number two, as we figure out solutions to help those families who don't have ready transportation, and that's something that we consider phase 2 once we got this drive-through operation going. So of the 5,800, we made about 8,000 meals. There are about, a little bit over 2,000 meals then that were then distributed to the mayor's offices after the operations closed at 1. And those meals, so, we have about 10 mayors, so it's about 200 meals for the mayor's offices to pick up or to get, take and help distribute to the families in their villages who might not have been able to get to the schools today.
So then, so then those mayors, the respective different mayors within the villages brought it to the different residences that were in need.
Right. There's areas in the village, or there's organizations in the village that can assist them with taking the meals and serving and making sure that they get into the hands of our children. But these might have been families who don't have the ready transportation to be able to get to the schools within those hours. I think the only village we didn't have covered was the Jigo mayor. He for some reason was hesitant to take that assistance and just I think kind of concerned about taking meals from us. But we're going to work to find an organization there to make sure that the residents in Jigo do have that support as needed.
Now, I remember you mentioning, and even right now, you said that phase 2 would be expanding into the villages. So this would be really entering inside. And then also previously in speaking with you, you said that it would be expanding into breakfast, correct?
Right. So we did get the approval. I told you earlier that we were not sure if that was covered in the waiver and in our contract with Sodexo, but we did manage to work over the weekend to ensure that we have the ability to serve breakfast. So, again, it really depends how long this operation is going. I mean, officially, we're closed for this week, and then that's the extent of the executive order. But, if we do go longer than that, and we kind of anticipate that we're going to need an extended period of time, we prepared our operation so that we can do that. We can expand to breakfast. I think if we do breakfast, we're more likely to just combine it with lunch so that we can, maybe broaden the window of operation so that the families can come pick up, but they don't have to come twice. We're going to want to see if we can do the school
grab it all at once.
First meal and lunch at once, and just additional food supply for the family. And then, what we're also going to do is assess the first few days of distribution. One of the concerns I had was looking at JFK, for instance. They've got about 480 meals served, but if you look at GW and you look at Southern High, they're both at 500 to 700. So JFK, because it's not in the middle of a residential area, we've got to work and make sure that the meals there are either getting to the families or that we look at another site potentially. So we're going to do that kind of analysis over the next few days so that we can make sure that the meals are getting to our students and making it as easy as possible to get them there.
Now, as you mentioned that as of right now, it goes up until this week because, March 30th was the original date. Now, if I think that you had told me prior that you guys do have enough meals to provide for a month and a half, though, correct?
Right. So if you look
That's
at
still ideal.
yeah, if you look at the lunches, we serve about 15,000 lunches every day normally. So we made about 60% of that as a starting point, just because we wanted to figure out how many meals we needed, and that's about the 8,000 number. But projecting off of 15,000 meals a day, we have about a month and a half supply just on hand. So depending on making sure that the supply chain is not interrupted, things that need to be shipped and brought in, making sure that goes smoothly. We can go for about 6 weeks, and then we'll have to assess where we are as we get closer. Now we didn't get the waiver approved to depart from the nutritional requirements. That was one thing we had applied for.
Being able
We
to
didn't.
adjust the menu, right?
Yeah, we didn't really need that at this point because we're at the starting point. But we were anticipating that if we get further into the operation, that we might run short on certain items and so forth, which might require us to alter the menu and substitute other food items. So we'll continue to monitor that and see if that becomes something that the department will give us flexibility on. But we certainly aren't at that point yet. Anyways, so we'll update people as we get further along.
All right, and so I know you were on the radio this morning as well with Chris and Sabrina, and you had mentioned, I think it's about nearly 100 staff, GDOE staff, that volunteered to help out at these sites today.
Right. I mean, they are going to be paid for their work, so they're not simply volunteers. But again, what I meant by that is we didn't direct and force people who didn't feel comfortable, working. We understand there's a lot of anxiety out there, a lot of uncertainty. We understand that some of our employees have certain health conditions where they might feel that they'd like to take those, extra precautions. And even if we give them protective equipment, still didn't feel comfortable. So our effort was really to find about 10 employees per site to assist, but 10 employees who were comfortable and willing to work. And then those who didn't feel comfortable, we gave them a pass. And we didn't want to put them out there with them feeling uncomfortable or uncertain about the situation. So I really want to thank the 100 staff members and the administrators at the sites who really stepped forward and understanding that we are in emergency circumstances and this is a need in the community. I think 6,000 meals served on day one, demonstrates that there is a need for food support. Many of our kids depend on these meals, and we're really glad that the families took advantage of this we serve today, and we hope that we'll see more as we go forward.
Right, and so this will be going throughout the week. Again, it's 11 until 1, and then students do not need IDs, right?
No, right now we're kind of going on an honor system just based on the circumstances. We didn't want to force families to bring 3, 5, 8 children, all in a car to the site just to get food. We worked that out with the Department of Agriculture, that we have that flexibility around the accountability side of it. So we're basically, asking our families to work with us in good faith. Let us know how many meals you have. We're going to take you at your word. If we need to put limits on because we see some kind of abuse, someone comes in and wants 100 meals and, that's going to shortchange other people, then we're going to have to do that. But, this is day one. So we're going to hear what our schools went through and whether that makes sense. But again, our effort is to get the meals out into the community and hopefully, make sure that the students have food support during this school closure period.
So then following today, you guys will be doing a lot of analysis within these preliminary reports.
Right. We have a Zoom conference call again, this afternoon to hear from all the schools. Again, what went right, what could be improved, whether the number of meals were sufficient, any support that might be needed in addition to what we had today. We were worried about seeing whether there was a need for traffic support, for security, police or others. Whether in situations where we might need that extra enforcement presence. But I think for the most part everyone kind of reported smooth operations and things going pretty quickly once they got started. And so we'll hear if there's anything that we can do to continue to improve what we're doing. But I think for day one, I'm pleased that we got the 6,000 meals out into the community through the drive-through operations, and that the mayors are helping us to deliver the rest that remained.
So you mentioned security. You have GPD personnel on the grounds as well?
Well, they've offered. I'm not sure how, what presents they provided. I know they offered, and I know that we're coordinating that through Homeland as we implemented it on day one. I mean, we know that there's a lot of needs, throughout the community, and they have their regular tasks. But they did offer, and we said, if we need support, we're going to reach out to you and let you know. But I have to, touch base with the schools to determine whether that was taken advantage of. We allowed the principals to kind of operate their campuses and communicate their needs, through the 11 to 1 period.
So we know spring break is also coming up. If this does go into that, as far as extending past March 30th, well, I mean, I know you mentioned that you guys do have enough meals for a month and a half, but we think as far as the meals go with breakfast and lunch, you guys will still be okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. And, we're not seeing any particular issues right now with shipments, right? I mean, I think that's the other thing. I mean, just generally, I mean, I'm sure other businesses are watching the same thing. So we haven't heard any disruptions in in supply. So of course, something we'll pay attention to, because if that's the case, then we'll continue to replenish, the needed inventory down the road. We just kind of, of course, we're just kind of looking at the potential for that to change should this pandemic situation continue.
Would the meals be provided during spring break though, considering
well, they aren't normally. They aren't normally. So right now we are not planning to over the weekends or over spring break. I'm going to be asking, my staff just what flexibility we do have, because the other question, of course, is as we head into the summer, and whether there's anything that we can do to support the community's issues over time. We're really worried about the situation. Not just because schools are closed and we're trying to provide school meals to the students, but we know that the overall situation, not just with the government, but with our private sector economy is pretty uncertain. So we know there are a lot of parents out there who are not only, having to care for their kids at home, try to go to work or make sure they understand their work situation. But we also know there are parents there whose jobs may be at risk, who may not be able to report to work and are losing income because of it. And so we're just concerned about the overall situation. And my approach is always to figure out how we can be a problem solver, a partner, and a community support during critical times. And I think many of our employees at the Department of Education feel the same way, especially when it comes to our kids. So we'll explore those options and see what the needs are. And then if we have the flexibility and the authority to provide additional support, we certainly will try to do so.
Right, definitely. And I mean, we heard from the public the outcry of how critical this is to provide these meals. Do you want to? Let me say we were concerned. We were concerned because we're kind of people might think there's a mixed message here. People are saying stay home at all costs, and other people are saying, well, there's critical needs in the community. So I just want to assure the public that we don't do this lightly. We're doing this because we believe it's part of the emergency effort. We believe that our families need that food support, especially for our kids, and because of that reason, we went forward with the food services. We went with 100 employees who were willing to step up and contribute to that effort. And if we're taking the necessary safety precautions, in light of the situation, we feel very important. That was very important to provide the school meal service. And we didn't make that decision lightly. We just think it's critical at this stage. Mm-hmm. Now, these sites are going to remain throughout the week, because I know that I think I read in the fine line that there was subject to change.
Right. I mean, again, we're going to assess and do our best to make sure we're serving meals in areas that where we'll be taken advantage of as fully as possible. There's a change. What we use from you and all of our media partners really is continue to push the information out around our existing sites, so that more and more families understand what they need to do to take advantage of the meals. And if there is a change, we'll try not to do it, it's just on the drop of a dime and, disrupt the whole process. We'll try to give some, heads up, and we would appreciate your assistance as well in getting that out to the community if we do change a site because of the need to better align the food services to the areas of need.
Just for the sake of those that might be just hearing this information for the first time, do you have that list on you?
I do. So we have 11 sites that are available right now. for pickup. This is basically for all students. Not actually all children from age 0 to 18 years of age. It is for children who are not in school yet, who are going to be in daycare, or just in that 0 to 5 age group, and it's for students who go to public school as well as private school. So anybody, any student, any child who is in that 0 to 18 category, their parents, their guardians can come to the school and pick up those meals. We're not asking that the students be present, so they don't have to be present. We're really operating on good faith with our community, and they can pick up meals between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 11 sites. If you are up north, the sites there are Estumbo Elementary, Billy Young Guerrero Middle School, John F. Kennedy High School, and Weddingdale Elementary School. In the central part of the island, we have Agana Heights Elementary School, Carbolito Elementary School, George Washington High School, and Jose Luis Middle School. And then in the south, we have Inarohan Elementary School, Emu Lohan Elementary School, and Southern High School. So for those who want to go and take advantage, be there between 11 to 1. It's drive-thru operation primarily, so get in your vehicle, follow the instructions, line up, don't exit your vehicle. You don't have to. We encourage you to stay there. We will serve you the meals through your window based on the number of meals you're requesting. These are bagged meals in containers, so they will be handled, and just the bags will be handed over. We did get some walkers who showed up, and the schools are prepared using another line into campus for those walkers. And then for those walkers, we're really encouraging that they observe the 6 foot apart, social distancing rule. And we've set up cones to try to facilitate that. If they do come, we're not turning them away. We're just saying, please, we don't want to have a large group of people waiting in line. So if they do come, we're going to ask that they all sort of follow those directions. So we hope more families will hear about the information, and hopefully we'll take advantage of the school meals that are being provided. And we hope to see more, as we go into later on into the week.
Of course. Now, John, real quick, I know that you guys also were thinking about implementing, depending on how long, of course, we do go without being in class, but learning and a learning and teaching plan. Is that still in the works, or? Oh,
no, absolutely. There are some conference calls this morning that I wasn't able to get on because of different other meetings going on and other things we were tracking. But I know Deputy Superintendent Joe Sanchez is actually working. We had a number of meetings last week and this week. Meeting with teachers, administrators, members of the Guam Federation of Teachers as well, to discuss the best ways to meet the needs of our students should there be a prolonged closure. Now, I think we all know that if March 30th is the day we reopen and everybody comes back, then everybody will have an opportunity to catch up to where we were, and things will go on as it normally would during the school year. But under a prolonged closure, we wanted to be a little bit more systematic about what we were able to do. So one of the difficulties, of course, is that we have issues with, if we wanted to go online, we have issues of accessibility. Those who are not connected, at home to the internet or may not have a device. So there are equity issues and discussions that we're having. The entire time we're talking about the different ways we want to continue teaching and learning at home. So those are things that are under discussion. At the same time, we're also of the opinion that some teaching and learning going on, but even though we know there might be some kids who may not be able to access it, we want to get that going for those kids who do have access, and then hit those gaps with creative ways to reach out to students who are still in need. We're looking at a district-wide approach. So we know that all of our teachers have worked very hard across the district over the last few years to coordinate the standards that they're focusing on, their lesson planning. So we think that we'll be able to work, at the elementary level to provide district-wide lessons, so that we can do this on a weekly basis with students. And we're just trying to solve some of the logistical issues. How do we put this information out online? What do we do for kids who might need hard packets? Are they going to come to school and so forth? And how do we provide feedback on the work, so that parents can get in touch with teachers to get feedback, on the student work? And then how will this impact grading, the provision of credit for high school students, and eventually graduation for the class of 2020? So as you can tell, it's a big issue. It's one thing just to provide learning opportunities, It's another thing when you start tying it in grades, tying it into high school credit, and yes, tying it into the students who were poised to graduate, June 2020. These are those who need final credits to graduate, and those who might have been working on those who were just remaining service learning hours that they were supposed to complete. So we know they're looking for the answers. They all are anxious about that, about graduation ceremonies. We're not able to give them, the full information, but hopefully later this week, targeting Wednesday or Thursday, be able to talk about what's in the works, what the plans are, and when the planning for implementation is. It depends on whether this closure is going to be extended, but we're planning for that eventuality.
All right. Looks like I'll be checking in with you on Wednesday.
Yeah, let me tell the students, I really feel for the students, especially our juniors and seniors in high school. They were planning their proms. Our fourth quarter sports, our athletes who were just planning, especially the seniors who were planning that final quarter in sports, and then graduation ceremonies, of course, a big production, but a big celebration. And this year is just, they got to be prepared for the worst in the event that we're continuing to be closed over the next, several weeks. So, I'm looking for them to be creative, help us find ways to celebrate, despite the uncertainty and anxiety of these weeks.
Of course. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, just, again, I want to thank my employees who are out there. I mean, again, this is something that we don't do on a regular basis, and it's above and beyond what we usually call for. But it is important that we play our role in the community, recognize that our families and our students need support, need someone to give them a little bit of reassurance and some positivity and hope during this time period. And then we're hoping our public health experts, the folks on the front lines who are responding, we pray for their safety, and we hope that they will help get ahead of the curve, with COVID-19. And we ask that everybody just pay attention to all the recommendations and the guidance for staying safe, staying home as much as possible, and helping flatten the curve. So, we're a part of that effort. So thank you, and we'll be in touch for the next few days, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you to all the staff. That was, being out there and helping out. Well, and thank you for joining me on this interview.
All right, well, thank you. I think we'll do more of this. I like this. It's we're always accessible now. We thought we might not be, but I think this situation has made not just these types of conversations, but also conversations throughout our department. We're using Zoom as a way to continue the work, and this might be a way for us to improve as an agency going forward.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, Jon.
All right. Well, thank you, Adriana. You too. Thanks.